This is the Misdirected Mark Podcast, a podcast about gaming, game mastering, and entertaining you, our listeners. We are explicit, and you have been warned, and I'd like to thank Mike Willard for letting us use his music on our show. Now let's pick up those mics and get on with this thing.
Once again, we can't do this show without bumps in the fucking road. You are explicit. We have been warned.
You know what? Skip. Just go to Jerry with the. Just go
What?
to Jerry.
We
with
can
the
do an
open-
intro.
Just go to Jerry with the opening.
Go ahead, Bob. Keep going. Go ahead, Bob. Do your intro.
Nope. Jerry, just read the red part.
We really need this. Welcome to the 391st episode of the Misdirected Mark Podcast. Tonight we're going to be talking about how to revive stalled and paused games. But first, I'm Jerry.
I'm Phil.
And I'm apparently still Old Man Logan.
We are good with tech.
Oy vey.
We are the Packlids of podcasting. We make things go. There's a deep cut. There's a deep cut reference.
Yeah.
All right. First order of business before we get to our one thing, for the people who are listening live and the people who are listening on Podcast Land, this show will be done at 9:30 tonight because I have parental duties and need to go pick up my kiddo from a field trip. So we got to wrap this thing up in about an hour and a half. So that's what we're going to do. Is
We are going to do it.
we're going to get this show done in an hour and a half, and then I'm going to leave you folks for the after show with these two, and I'm going to bolt out of here and go pick up my kid. Because my kid texted me like 15 times today. Like, do you know where to pick me up? Do you know when you're going to pick me up? Are you going to text me when you leave? And I realized, because I was super proud at that moment, because I realized that's me.
Yeah.
Like, I know exactly where that anxiety comes from.
Uh-huh.
That's me. So it's nice to see a little bit of yourself in your kids. So yeah, I got to get my ass there. Otherwise, I'll never hear the end of it. Anyway,
Yep.
with that, let's get the show started with one thing. And Jerry, what's your one thing?
Let's see. I pretty much spent the whole week when I wasn't at work doing more basement cleanup. You can see about another like 25 square feet of floor down here. And also watching Hunters, which is really good. It's dark.
Amazon show, right?
Yep, Amazon show. Really dark, not for everybody. Little heavy-handed with some of the propaganda at times, but it's still pretty good. It's if you like dark, kind of twisty-turny, kind of Jews hunting down Nazis kind of shows, it's a good show. It's a lot of fun.
There we go.
There you go.
Very nice.
How about you, Bob?
So we're rocking some new tech here. I got my new laptop.
Yeah,
we
you
got
did.
it all configured, and
Last
still-
week we had old laptop.
we had old tech last week. Now we have new tech, and
We-
I can do things like run the stream and have the chat room up and have the show notes up, so I can multitask.
Yeah,
again.
that's
Yay.
that's pretty buff. It's a nice looking laptop too.
It's not bad. It's a 2-in-1 too, so I can go into tablet mode if I want to.
There you go.
and
I
Touch
like
the
that a lot.
screen and
Yeah, very nice.
fingerprints everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you?
Me. We did our, I say we because Bob is in that group. Sunday night we did our session 0/session 1 for Headspace. And we did all of our intro stuff, our cats, safety, and all of that. And then we got into character creation, and we did the probably the best part of character creation, which is the questions that go with each of the skills, which then determines the emotions that tie to each skill. And that is really like how you build up the entire group, because those questions create a fiction in the story. And so we have what are going to be 3 ghost operators, because we're playing a 3-player game. So 3 of the operators are going to not make it by the time we start the game. And I think we killed one already in the background
Yep, we
story.
already killed one.
Yeah, we killed Houston, I think, in the background one. But anyway, really good. I'm really looking forward to playing it. I think that this has elements of all the things that we really like in a game. So it's got action, but emotions, because there's a thing, I think ever since we started playing Tales from the Loop, action, and then emotions about actions. And we're definitely going to get that out of playing.
I think we will.
Yeah, I think we will too. Anyway, it was good. It was a good start, and I'm psyched. Like we're gonna finish up character creation and jump into our first mission in the next session.
Yeah.
Cool. We got a few announcements. First one is my bag review for the Tom Bin Cynic 30 is up on Gnome Stew. I put it through its paces for a month. It's actually it's behind me on the floor. I can't say enough nice things about it, but you should go check out the Gnome Stew article. If people dig it, I will do other bag reviews. Like I'm going to try talking to some other designers to get some other bags, but I also have a bunch of bags, so I can actually just take things out of my current collection and put them through their paces as well.
Do more. I really want that bag. That bag was
The Cynic 30. Yes.
That is rapidly becoming the bag you turned me to 2 years ago. The Timbuktu Courier has been really good, but I'm looking at a backpack now and it's been really nice.
And the Tom Bin Cynic 30 is definitely my con bag for the season. You will, if you go to Origins, you will see it because it'll be on my back. Another thing I wanted to mention, it's on the Kickstarter, and I was going to go look and see how it's doing. But friend of the show, Todd Crapper, has Patty and Fritz, the
Misadventures of
Misadventures of Patty and Fritz. And I need to announce this, one, because Todd's a wonderful human, and the game's a great, just a treasure. But also, I'm partially responsible for this BS. So I'm waiting for whatever reason. My phone's a little slow on the pickup here. But anyway, the Misadventures of Patty and Fritz is a story about a delightful story about a pack of fries and a half-eaten hamburger. I believe solving crimes, right?
They fight crime.
Yep. I got it. I'll put it in the chat room.
Yeah, there we go. It's not misadventures. It's the many adventures.
There you go.
Here we go. I have it coming up right now. Anyway, Todd and I both made games after we observed Mark Richardson's half-eaten hamburger sitting on the table at Metatopia. Mine, I thought I was being cheeky when I did mine. I did the Mark's half-eaten hamburger LARP and posted it up on Drive-Thru. Todd, who looked at my game and was like, "Here, hold my Tim Hortons."
Yep.
Went on to make like a full game from it. And it's out there, so it's got 20 days to go. It could use some backing love. This concept's a bit out there, so let's get it out there. It's Todd. It's about a half-eaten hamburger.
And fries, right?
And fries. Well, the Fritz is the fries. Yeah. Patty is the half-eaten hamburger.
Crime fighting's back on the menu, and it's time to cook up trouble for the crooks in the city. There's been rumors about a new duo dashing out justice, and now it's time for you to put a spin on a tale or two about The Many Adventures of Patty and Fritz, a party game for players of all ages where everyone shares rumors they've heard about a pair of mysterious crime fighters, a half-eaten hamburger, and a plate of French fries. After creating an overall plot for the story, players will take turns randomly choosing characters in the story and sharing what they heard about what the character did at the moment. During the game, other players can challenge their rendition of the story with an alternate rumor, and everyone can both determine which version of the truth they want to use. On Kickstarter right now.
Yeah, come on.
That was my announcer voice.
Good job, Todd. Yeah, I'm loving it. It's it's just my kind of ridiculousness.
It is. It's nice.
And party games, so it is the kind of thing like you can bring and entertain friends and stuff like that. So yeah, go check out.
And it's $5 for the
PDF
for the bare level. That gives you three backstories, and I think the big one is $20. Has like all the stuff, and at $35 you get the book.
All right. So come on, people, show some love.
Yeah.
That's our Todd.
And who doesn't love hamburgers and fries?
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Seriously.
Plus, if you get it, I will throw in a free copy because it's free of the of Mark's half-eaten hamburger line.
There you go.
Anyway, good. I'm good with that.
It's time to do the thing then, isn't it?
All right.
It is time to do the
Take
thing.
a sip, get yourself ready.
Yeah, so we're drinking Tang tonight because I'm like 12 again.
I feel like an astronaut. All right.
Revive style games! Revive pause games! Bring them back from the dead! Play them again and again!
Don't ever let your games go stale. Workshop. Don't suck.
Whew.
Gonna take a little sip. Refreshing. I feel like I'm weightless right now.
It's actually not Tang. It's actually Walmart brand Morning Rise sugar-free orange tangerine drink.
Are we not doing phrasing?
So. It's also not Poon.
That's a lot of words, man.
It's also not Poon
Whoa,
Tang, Bob. Okay, so it's not that. Okay.
As the X cards. Easy on the language.
We're explicit. You've been warned.
I know, but we're explicit in a different way. Fuckity, fuck.
That was an old joke off in Living Color.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay.
This month has been a scheduling disaster for me, and
Yeah.
and by way of me, also my gaming groups. We had multiple cancellations of games. I had to travel a bunch. Like, I lost all of February. I basically did not get to game in the month of February, and that makes it really hard to get back into the swing of things and get those games going again. Right?
So tonight we're going to talk about that. How do you revive games that get stalled out? And how do you revive games that have been paused? So, Phil, first of all, do we have any definitions for tonight?
I think we do.
Behold, you are in the presence of Definition Panda.
We do have two definitions for tonight. As I pause for my.
Didn't Todd Trapper do the Definition Panda thing?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
yeah. That's totally Todd. That's
So,
another Todd. Another piece of
Support
Todd Trapper.
Definition Panda, back his game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're gonna just do two. I got just two definitions for framing it tonight because we already said them. We talked about stalled games and paused games. So let me just define them really quick. Stalled games are where there's an intention to keep playing from session to session, whatever your interval is, right? 2 weeks, 1 week, whatever. But one or more sessions got canceled for some reason. Okay, that's a stalled game because you really meant to do it, but it's not going anywhere.
Right.
Contrast that to a paused game. These are games where you've stopped on purpose. And the intention is that you will bring the game back later. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. But the intention was, hey, we're going to stop playing this to play something else, but let's pause this game. Instead of, and I guess maybe this is the third one, which is like where you just pull the fucking plug on it. Right? And I used to do this all the time. And it's a thing our game group doesn't do very much anymore. Is just kill games in mid campaign. Like we have a very good habit of finishing games out. So pausing a game is like where you decide like, hey, let's switch games. Let's get to a good clean stopping point, and we'll wrap this guy up.
Phil, you've always been considered to make sure everybody finishes. It's important.
Aw, thanks.
All right, so let's talk about the reasons that we have stalled and paused games. First, let's talk about why both of these reasons can arise. Stalled games are typical because something unexpected comes up.
Yeah, like somebody gets scheduled for a shift, right? Like if you're working shift work and, or maybe like you had it off, but like somebody called in sick and you get called in, right? Like out of the blue, like, oh, sorry, I got to go in.
Yep.
Sickness, right? That was me 2 weeks ago. We were getting ready to play DCC and I had like this funky back spasm and like went home early from work. I was like dying in the car driving home. I didn't even know what it was.
Funky back spasm is my No Doubt cover band. So
Yeah. There you
Nice. That's awesome.
thank you.
Go. Well done.
Death in the Family, which was actually one of the other reasons I was gone last month, right? With my uncle's passing, like Death in the Family is another one that can just knock you out of these. And then I can just add a few other things, right? Weather. We live in Buffalo, not this year, but other years. Sometimes snow takes out a session. Power outages, like whatever. But all those things, like things that you're not expecting to come up, suddenly come up.
Yep. And there's typically not a lot of warning with this kind of interruption. And when possible, the group can try to reschedule, but it's going to be a function of how complicated everybody's schedules are.
Yeah. I don't know about you. No, actually, I do know because I know your schedule. And mine's not much better. If I don't hit the date of the game,
Yep.
the chance that I can slide it over a day, like, have it a little earlier or have it a little later, is not that great. It's pretty hit and miss.
And for me, it's going to get worse as the weather gets warmer because that's when my business gets busy for about 3 months, so all of a sudden I'm going to be scrambling all over. So
Yeah, and you play a lot of games, so it's not like it's like if you can't make it Thursday, and I'm like, hey, cool, can we play Friday? You probably can't. Right. But I mean, that's what I mean, right? Like, and I think that's true for a lot of gamers as they get older. Like, it's hard. Like, once I get my game slot pinned down, like I have had to commit everything else on both sides of it.
being an adult is hard. There must be an easier way.
No, there isn't.
No, there isn't. All right. However, pause games are different. Pause games are done with intention. We know we're going to pause, and we have a plan. We know something's coming up that will disrupt the game effort, and we take time to figure out what we're going to do with the game. It can be for any of the reasons above.
Yeah.
But it could also be things like...
new baby, right? Like, I mean, that happened, that's happened with Tony, that happened with me twice, right? Like having a kid, you know, kind of disrupts your gaming schedule temporarily. School starting and stopping. So like I would game with my friends from home, but then I would have to go back to school, right? So that was always the thing. Trips, you know, changing jobs. So I think I don't remember if we've done it in our group, but one of my groups, we paused a game because somebody was changing jobs and they knew like those first couple months were going to be really hectic. So we were like, cool, let's chill on this game until you're back. You want to change up games is another reason, right? So maybe there's a different game you want to play. And then the ever dreaded holiday season from Thanksgiving through New Year's. Sometimes that becomes like, you know, a hellish gauntlet to try to schedule games.
And if you work retail, that starts the week before Halloween.
Right. Yes, that's true.
I know that I've got some friends of mine that work retail, and I know that from about Halloween through just after New Year's, we're not going to see them on the weekends for the next like seven 8 weeks.
Yeah.
It gets tough.
It's true.
But the good thing is in these cases, we have an idea what's coming up. So we can stop the game in a good place. So later time when the schedules work out, we can try to get the game restarted. And by a good place, we mean it's a place that stopped at the end of a story arc, where there'd be a natural break, some place that immediate loose ends have been wrapped up. And this means that while the game is stopped, we still have longer reaching loose ends that still need to be dealt with later on.
Yeah, you're not like at the campaign end.
No.
You're just like, you know, hey, we finished this adventure. This would be a good time to shelf this game. Or we finished this major arc. Yeah. All right. So, when we have a game that stalls or one that's paused, we have some challenges actually when we try to bring the game back, right? Most of them are due to the passage of time, and that is going to depend on how long you've been stalled or how long you've been paused, right? Because the longer the amount of time that's passed, the more daunting some of these challenges are going to be. All right, so here are a couple of challenges. I'll start with the first one, then we're going to kick it back and forth with each other. The first one is Rusty System Mastery. So yeah, like if you haven't played a game in a while, you may forget how to actually play the game. I run a ton of games, and if I'm not actively running them, the chance that I still off the top of my head remember how to play them is pretty minimal. I actually need to kind of like go back and give myself like a refresher, especially if the game's more complex. Like the thicker the book, the more likely I'm going to have to kind of reread because I'm going to not remember. What's another one?
Forgotten story details. This is probably the most common issue. People forget what happened in the game. People forget what's going on, and this can happen at different levels. If the game is stalled, it's possible that the stall took place in the middle of an adventure, and now people forget what's going on in the story. If it's a simple story plot, then it might not be a big deal, but if it's a complex plot with multiple villains and multiple things around in the background, people can forget what's going on in the story. This actually happened with our Friday Eberron game when we had a stall in the game and then we shifted a bunch of players around, and because two players who were deeply involved in the game were no longer there, when the game got restarted, we forgot there was a villain in the background doing things and didn't deal with them until it got out of control.
Ouch.
Not that Chris would set a clock for that or anything, but you know.
Sitting back there checking off his clock. No one knows why.
It's an amazing game. Anyway, but you can also have things where there's details that go missing. You forget who people are. You forget what your resources are. You might have a bunch of people that are good contacts for you. NPCs you've met, things like that, and you forget that they're there to help drive the story.
Yep.
And so it's important to get all those back. So what's another one?
Cooling off, lack of urgency, right? Like, well, we haven't played this game in a while. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's still a cool game. Like, it was cool when we were playing it, but I don't know. I guess it's all right. Right? So, like, that, like, lack of urgency is a problem because a lot of times the way we derive tension in our games is because of something urgent, right? The dragon is closing in. The dragon's closing in on the town. The mystery needs to be solved before the next victim's killed, whatever. But if you stall out or pause, and now a whole bunch of time has passed, like, you've kind of lost the urgency, right? Like, you can fake it, like, oh, no, we got to save it before the dragon gets here. But, like, the sense of, that meta sense of, like, your actual, the bleed, right, of that pressure is long gone, right? So that's, and that can be a little bit of a problem because urgency, right, and that cooling off is counter to emotional investment. Right? If I'm really charged up about a game because I'm bleeding a little anxiousness because of like this impending disaster I'm trying to head off, my emotional investment and commitment to the game is high. My focus on the game is more intense and stuff like that. When we cool off, like, and then you're like, well, I kind of remember this game being really exciting, but it's not really exciting right now. Like, I mean, the game's cool and stuff and the story's all right, but I don't know, right? Like, that's the problem, right? Like you're just gonna like you don't have it. Yeah. You've lost that love and feeling.
We should put a pin in urgency because I think that's something that a lot of GMs need to figure out how to pace better in their games.
Urgency.
I've got, yep. Let's put a pin in that. All right.
What else?
Well, waning interest,
which goes hand in hand with the cooling off.
It does. Similar to the issue above. Basically, games been paused and people just kind of lose interest in what they were doing, especially if not all the players were super invested to begin with, or if the game's early on and they haven't put a lot of effort in their characters. There's not an urgency to come back. What's exciting about the game, now the time has passed, is kind of worn off. It no longer has that new game smell.
Yeah, it just smells like regular game.
There's a lot less emotional investment in the game, and once all that excitement cools off, it's a lot harder to get people back in again, unless you find a way to ramp that back up again.
Yeah.
And of course, kind of the bane of all games, whether they're really good or really bad, Phil?
Oh, the last one on our list is the dreaded new hotness.
No, not the new hotness.
So you paused or stalled out your game, and then, like, some really cool game came out. And now you're like, I think this game is cooler than our stalled game. And you're like, guys, hear me out. I think we should play this game. I say this from absolute experience because in my 20s, I was guilty of this every which way imaginable.
I feel called out.
Oh, dude, I was so bad. And because I was the GM, like, if you're not the GM and you're like a player who's got the new hotness, like, you can kind of hold that off because the group will kind of stay with like the GM. But if you're the GM and suddenly you're like, that game, that's old and busted. We should be playing this. Your group is fucked. Like, because if the GM has started to emotionally invest in another game, the chance that the other game, the old game, is coming back, not strong. Not at all. So yeah, I definitely. Have you been the victim of the new hotness?
I've been a slight victim of the new hotness. Generally, I'm the perpetrator of the new hotness.
Yeah.
Back before I moved back.
Wait, are you saying you buy a lot of games?
Just occasionally. I didn't date until I was out of college. What do you think I did with all my time?
A lot of games.
That's a lot of games.
A lot of games.
Gary.
And as
Jerry was polygamorous at an early age.
Oh
yes.
Yeah. And also because as a player, I'm pretty much, up until I moved back to Buffalo, kind of the alpha gamer in the group. Even when I wasn't the GM, if I was the player that was interested in the new hotness, eventually everybody wanted to play the new hotness because I would sell them on it. So I was more the perpetrator than the victim most times. So, but tried to back that off a little bit. So these are some of the problems that can arise with our stalled or paused games. But Bob, let's see what the chat room has to say, and we'll get into the roundtable in a few seconds. So Bob, tell us about another show on the Misdirected Mark Network.
The Lounge, which I haven't listened to in forever. I need to do some listening to The Lounge.
Yeah,
The
Doc's
Lounge
still
is
good.
famous. Doc finds the best, the brightest, the most fun game designers and sits down to have a cool chat with them. You never know what conversation is going to come up in The Lounge. I need to check with Doc because Doc did an interview with me.
Every time that we talk about the lounge, you're like, Doc did an interview with me, but I don't know where it is. Are you
It was
sure?
at Origins, I think, last year, wasn't it?
I don't know, Bob. Was it?
I'm pretty sure it was at Origins last year, so it's been a while.
Right.
I'm like,
I mean, I
need to-
believe you. I believe you did an interview.
So that is The Lounge. The chat room is having a little bit of difficulty with the stream. That some people are experiencing some choppiness and some stuff.
Well, Mo's experiencing lag and stuttering, but he's in Canada. Like, their internet's on the metric system.
Yes, that's right. It's a metric BPS.
Yeah, it's a,
So it's only worth 66% of ours.
yeah, he's probably getting the correct number of frames when you convert it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Discounted.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's too funny.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Mo mentioned briefly about having a game that's basically stalled since 2017.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a
pretty
long
sure, Mo,
stall.
if your game stalled 3 years ago, that's not a game anymore. Like, I'm pretty sure that one is dead. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going.
Sad but true. It's probably a done.
It's dead, Jim.
Mo also said that lack of system mastery is one of the things that keeps him from finishing a lot of video games. You stop for a while, and by the time you come back, you have lost that skill, and now you're just getting your butt kicked all over the place.
Yeah, that's no fun.
That's
Especially video games, because I mean,
Yeah.
video games end up
That's
you end up with a lot of muscle memory and stuff like that, and your twitch response, gets better as you play the game, and then you leave it for 6 months.
Well, that's why I don't ever play puzzle games or jumping games anymore.
Yeah.
I just
Ugh.
play games where I look at stuff and I kill it.
Yeah, I play Minecraft. I'm old man. That's
I
that's my
save
old
people.
man speed.
And I help people. I like to help people.
The what you call it? System mastery is a killer for me because I remember a game as long as I am playing it, right? Like every time we go back and play Swords Without Master,
Yep.
I have to reread it.
Yep.
Like I cannot remember.
Yeah.
Like I know the game, right? I mean I know it, but it's like, oh, we're gonna play Swords Without Master this Sunday. Out comes issue 3, right? I got to start reading it again, like. And as soon as I start reading it, I'm like, oh yeah, right. No.
I remember.
I
why
remember.
I love this game.
Right, I remember how to play this game. And then the other thing that happens is when I start playing it again, after like a half hour playing it, I'm like, shit, this game is so good. Why do we stop playing it?
Yeah. Why don't we just keep
Like,
playing
yeah,
Swords
why do
Without
we?
Master?
Yeah, why do we stop playing this game? I'm gonna put it on an index card and like try to remind myself because I do. I love it, and every time I start playing it again, I'm like, nope, I fucking love this game. So, yeah.
That's a game that requires a lot of GM system mastery, though.
It does because it's funny because people are like, yeah, but it's like a really light game, but it's procedure, and we've talked about this way long ago on an old show. It's got a heavy procedure, and the procedures have to be followed.
Yep.
Who holds the dice? When do you pass the dice? When do you
can't
put the
just
dice
flail
down?
about willy-nilly. You
No,
gotta
like-
follow the process.
Right, and like the actual, like the flow of story and stuff like that, and the GMing of it isn't actually that hard, but the procedures, the real bear to kind of hold in your head.
Oh,
Yeah, dig though, I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. The other one that happens, which is kind of funny, is that when con season rolls around, as a game designer, I often have to go run my own games, some of which I haven't run since the last con season. And so I'm sitting there, with the Hydro Hackers book, flipping through it, going, yeah, how does this game work again? Like, oh yeah.
So they're stealing water.
Right, so it's about, so this is the plumbing game.
My problem is games that have similar, either games,
Oh.
either games like playing different PBTA games,
Yes.
or games like between Savage Worlds and Barbarians of Lemuria, try to remember how the bennies work or the hero points work in each game, because they work slightly. Oh, and the one engine now, the special points work slightly different ways in all 3 games.
Yep.
And I play by the seat of my pants, so I'm just like, yeah, that's how that works in this one.
I've played a bunch of Free League games,
Yeah.
and I cannot remember any of the skills for Free League games. I'm like, roll the stealthy one.
Yep.
Like,
Oh, yeah.
like you guys have character sheets. What's the stealthy one? Roll that
Roll
one.
that one, yeah.
And then the other thing is with Free League, all of their games have basically the same dice mechanic. Roll a bunch of 6s, collect 6s.
Yeah.
But then all the things that surround that are different.
Yeah.
So like in Forbidden Lands, when you push a roll, it's completely different than how you push a roll in Tales from the Loop. And so there's a moment where it's like, wait, which game is this? Oh, right. Okay, do we do this thing? Cool.
No. Mine's also skilled because I play D&D and Savage Worlds. I'm always telling players, like, okay, all right, you're playing Savage Worlds. Roll your perception. What's that? I don't have perception. Sorry, notice. Roll notice. You know, that kind of, the same skills.
Roll your looky skill.
Yeah. Your looky skill, yeah.
Mo says he likes to keep a blank character sheet behind the GM screen so that he has all that information.
Yep.
I used to a long time ago when I was running Corporation, because Corporation had like 500 skills.
Oh, God.
I used to have a, on my personal GM screen, I just put all the skills listed down, like not even with, I just the names of them, so that I could look at them and be like, yes, make a light weapons check.
Yeah.
I
Whatever.
just don't use GM screens enough anymore, so that's
Well,
that's
you know what I
different thing.
do? I don't use mine standing up. I lay them down. Yeah. So I take the GM screen and knock it over, and then it's like my worksheet.
But then the players don't have the cool artwork to look at, so.
Yeah, but I really don't like that.
I don't either.
The one game I will keep it up for is phrasing. Still doing phrasing?
Yeah.
Is Paranoia.
Well, yes.
Because Paranoia, you should sit behind the screen and terrorize them.
There's a couple. I have a custom Savage Worlds GM screen that Mike Sprague, who runs a lot of Savage, he's basically Mr. Savage Worlds Rochester, has a whole bunch of custom inserts, not just for the basic game, but he's got like, here's the ones you want to put in for Deadlands.
Oh yeah, those are great.
And
That's
those
great.
are useful. And I like the Fantasy Flight Star Wars one because it's got a lot of the percentage dice charts on it that would normally be in the book. And it basically means that despite the size of the Fantasy Flight games, if you've got the GM screen, you can run like 95% of that game without ever opening the book. And that's something I look for in game mastery.
So what I would do is I would actually take all those inserts and just put them like on the table in front of me,
I've done
and just
that quite a bit.
flip through them. That to me is like perfect.
I have, for the Savage Eberron, I've just got a stack of stapled pages that I have, and I flip through when somebody needs something.
What I really want to get into one day is I've seen them. You know how you can get the big gaming playmats for like the collectible cards or whatever?
Yeah.
I want to get one of the, I want to make one of those for a game for like my area and just have it printed with all the rules and stuff on it, as well as like spaces where like, like a circle for me to put my dice over here. Like I want to make myself like a table mat kind of thing, because I don't like GM screens. And I think it would be just neat to put like some of the rules, the tables and shit like that on like one of those mats and then roll it out in front of me.
Mage Kayla mentioned that the GM screen she uses is only 2/3 the normal height, so it doesn't really block
Much
her.
better.
That's a really good idea too. I like that.
Yep, little height screens are cool. Mo's mentioning that that Todd Crapper has for High Plains Samurai. He's got a play mat. Like I think playmat's a cool idea. I think it's one, it's a little underdeveloped, but two, I think there's a logistical piece of it that transporting a poster through a con will be very tricky.
Yeah.
You would want a mat that could fold up or something. Like there's some logistics you need to think through.
If you could roll it up into something like, well, you guys can't see. There's a set of tubes across the way from me.
I'm saying like my backpack right now,
Yeah.
like that would be like I'd have to stick that in the backpack and have it like poking up out of the top.
Yeah, you molly it on.
Not my bag.
Oh, okay.
The Tom bin doesn't have Molly.
That's true. That's true.
Not a Molly bag.
Yeah, now, I mean, if I had my Peak Design Everyday Backpack, the second water bottle holder is designed to actually hold a tripod. So I could stick that in there and actually take out the lashing cords and actually secure it to the side of the bag. But you're still walking around with like a big,
Yep.
antenna sticking out of the top.
It's like you're the communications officer for the group.
Yeah, but it also gives you something to.
That is Little Army Men. That is Little Army Men joke.
Yeah,
By the way,
just-
Senda, Little Army Men are plastic toys from like the 1970s. They were little green plastic army men. You might have seen them in Toy Story.
Yeah.
All right, should we jump into the round table?
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
round
let's talk
table.
about the
I
round
feel like we
table.
just round tabled for a little while, but sure, let's round table about the actual topic.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. All right, so yeah, we're just going to keep talking about stalled and paused games. So I'm going to ask the question, Jer, what is the longest game you've ever paused or stalled, whether you played it or GM'd it?
It's been kind of weird because for a very long time, I played in 4-year gaps. When I had my group that I grew up with, and then when we finally got into high school, I played with an older group, and then I went to college, and that was a different group as well. And so we didn't have long enough games that ran where we would have long pauses, except for my Mechton Empire game, which started with one group and kind of transpired from one group to another. And when I graduated college, I was living with some of my gamers for a couple of years, and some of our friends came over, and that game finally wrapped up, actually. We got to a point where the story stopped, new hotness came out, so we wrapped up the campaign, and the players, the characters saved the universe, they destroyed the Larini, and which were the bad guys, and literally like became the Emperor of the Galaxy and his cohorts and the greatest idol singer of all times and so on and so forth. A nice little tidy wrap up. And then lo and behold, like 3 years later, like, we'd like to play that game again, and we like those characters, we like that universe. And but I'm like, running a game with the characters at that level, like, what does the Emperor of the Universe really do in an adventure?
Yeah.
So instead, we picked it up 3 years later as their kids 30 years later.
Yeah, that's neat.
What is life like when you're the youngest child of the savior of the galaxy who also happens to be the emperor? Or what if your mom was the most famous singer of all times and she killed lots of bad guys on intergalactic TV? And that's what we picked up with. And it worked pretty well, but it was a long pause, with a 3-year pause between the campaign stories. That's probably the longest one I've ever done. It's only 3 years. It's not that long of a time. So.
Oh, I think that's actually pretty long, Jer. Like,
That's a pretty long time.
I think three's a long time
Well,
to bring back a game.
To flip that, when I was in college, we had 2 different groups. I had the group I played with here in Buffalo, so we only played during the summer and during Christmas break. So there was always like a 5-month gap between those. And of course, at college, that group played 2 to 4 to 5 days a week for a whole year, and then there was a gap in the summertime. So we had those gaps, and that was mostly Village Vigilantes, and so that picked up and came. So there was, but those were only like 3 or 4 month gaps, so they really weren't that long. So
That's not bad.
my concept of long campaigns, I understand, is a little different than some people. My idea of a long campaign is like 5 or 6 years, where a lot of people are like, we've played 15 sessions, that's a long game.
Yeah.
So it's just different how you play.
I've got like a 2. I think 2. I mean, I think my longest campaign was ever
3.
3 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Again, that comes though from me gaming with 4 other people who also didn't date at all for 4 years.
Yeah.
So as I said to them many times, like, there's a reason why I'm sitting in a room with 4 guys on a Friday night. It's because none of us have dates.
Conscious choice, man.
Conscious choice. I was just gonna do that. Nice.
What are you
No.
doing sitting here at a gas and sip all alone on a Friday night?
No,
Conscious choice.
we were just horrible human beings. It took a while to realize that. So with that in mind, Bob, what's the longest pause you had?
So Phil and I, depending on what he had going on pre-me, we might actually have the same answer because we've played in almost all the same games.
Pretty much. For some
But-
time.
Yeah, for some time. And I racked my brain on this one. And the only thing I can think of is maybe we took a break with Tales from the Loop, didn't we? No,
I
it was
mean-
Masks that we took a break on.
That's actually still paused. Yeah.
No, I mean, didn't we take a break, play something else for like 4 sessions, and then go back?
No, but I do have one in mind that I can that we did play together.
Yeah.
Was our 3rd edition D&D game.
Ah, that's true.
because
I forgot about
because
that one.
I ran it for a while.
Yep.
And then we Then we, I think that game either stalled or paused. I don't remember if it was clean or not. And then later, Mike took
picked
over.
it up.
Mike took over GMing, and like a year later,
Yeah.
took over GMing.
That's cool.
And we revived the game with our characters.
Yeah,
so
that's cool. Yeah, that was about a year.
that was about a year. That was and that's the one I thought of when I was thinking about games that we've played together. And then the only thing I had, which was actually shorter than that, was that I think we've talked about this before. Oh yeah, the Airy Peaks had a huge break in it.
Oh, that's right.
The Airy Peaks had a huge break because we played it, we stopped, we played a bunch of other games, and then one night when we were trying to pick out games, we had them all written on the dry erase board, and Dungeon World was up there, and we were like, I'd play Dungeon World again.
Yeah.
And like we all pointed at it, we were like, I'd play Dungeon World again, and we were off and running.
That was at least a year.
Yeah, it was a
If not
while.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other
Forgot about
one that I the other one I stalled out on was my Amber game because I didn't game I didn't game while I was at university. I only gamed on summers. So I had an Amber game that played, paused, came back, started playing again. So that was pretty rad as well. But yeah, I don't know, like I play so many games. And I think Bob's right. We play so many games that we rarely go back to a game. Like we paused our Masks game
Yes.
in a really nice spot. Like we got to the
Yes.
end of the major arc, had like this really awesome time traveling
Yep.
experience.
We had an epic conclusion that was
Epic.
wrapped up nicely,
Right.
and a couple of interesting things in the denouement, like
Yep.
dun dun dun, something for future.
Well, because Tony's wife was going to have a baby.
Yeah.
So we were like, we had to bring this game in for a landing.
Yeah.
And we all liked it. So we were like, well, this game could pick up any other time in the future.
Yeah.
Like, because the next issue could come out.
Yeah.
Right. So we paused that game. That was probably the most recent
And we
game
fully intend to go back at some point.
and technically we paused Things from the Flood.
Yeah.
We may go back and play that again
Yeah.
too, because that's
So here's a question: does it
Yep.
count if you come back to the same campaign with a different game system? Because we've done that a lot.
you know what I
We're-
think it does.
I mean,
like,
if it's the same campaign.
It's
The,
the
story's
underlying
the same.
rules are different. You're telling the same story.
Because we would do that a lot, where we'd play D&D. We got bored with D&D. We'd play Villains and Vigilantes for a while. We'd come back. Let's play GURPS. So let's take our D&D characters and build them in GURPS.
no, I think that's legit.
Then we'd play GURPS for a while.
Did you have all the same NPCs, locations?
Yeah,
and
yeah. It was
story? Yeah.
it was actually for V&V. We did a lot of stuff where we would play other superhero games, realize we didn't like them as much, and just convert them over to V&V and bring them
Yes.
into that
Yeah.
campaign. But we did the same group of characters were in. Started in Warhammer Fantasy, then became GURPS, then became D&D, and that didn't last very long. Then we took them into something else. I can't remember what. I think Tunnels and Trolls for a while. So just to try game systems.
Whereas we've done the opposite. We've come back to games before,
Yeah.
to the system,
And
and
played
played a
different
new
campaigns.
campaign.
Yeah, we did a
We did
corporation.
3 different corporation games. We've done.
We did. I'll be
multiple
honest. We
different-
did 3 different corporation games, but the first one,
The first one was the pinnacle.
the
of
first
that.
one was the
Yeah.
money,
I think
and those were awful people. Those were like those characters were so despicable. I wouldn't actually play that game again. Not the people. The humans who played it were fine.
Yeah.
But the character, the corporation we played was the criminal syndicate one, and they were bad people.
Yeah.
Bad people. I would not be comfortable playing that content today.
I think our Marvel superheroes, the face rip game that I run every year, we do new characters every year because the teams always kind of fall apart at the end of each one. So
Yeah, and to be clear, if you're playing the same system with a different campaign, you are not actually reviving a stall game. You're just playing that game again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's different.
That is not the same as
no,
that.
that's a different thing.
Yeah, I guess that now that we're evolving this discussion, when we're talking about stalled and paused games, we're really talking about the campaign, which I will say favors more to story than mechanics.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's
All right.
fair.
Okay,
Very
question
fair.
number 2, Phil. What are your best tips for reviving a stalled game, both either as a player and as a GM?
Oof. I will say the first tip is I don't let people take home their character sheets.
Okay.
I am the central archiving of all character sheets because you'll never get a game revived if people can't find their character sheets. Like, because then people are like, oh, I guess I have to remake my character, you know, whatever. So one of the things I do is I have a folder in my little filing cabinet next to my table for every game. And if we pause a game, well, if we stop, like anytime we stop playing for the night, I collect all the stuff and put it in the folder. But if we pause a game, then I'm even more deliberate. I go through the folder, clean it up, and get it into a place where it's in good shape. And then I put it in the filing cabinet. And then that way, if it's like, hey, we're going to pull this game out. Like if tomorrow we were like, hey, we're going to go play Masks, like I would just go get the file and all the character sheets are in there.
Everything's ready to go.
And all the things are in there. Now, the other thing that I am notorious for when I run games is writing on index cards. I always have a stack of index cards. So one of the things I do is I write on index cards during the game, but all my prep for games is in OneNote.
Okay.
So I have this app on my phone called Office Lens, which is Microsoft's scanner.
Okay.
So what I do is between sessions, and if we pause a game, then I make sure I go do it as the last thing in the game, is I use Office Lens to scan in all the index cards, and it imports it directly into OneNote.
Okay.
So if I lose the index cards, and I can just throw them away, honestly, I have in OneNote, I have all of the index cards for each session, usually as a sub-page to each session. So I can like look at the session prep, and then I can look at the play notes, and then I can, keep going. So that way, if I'm going to revive a game, I can like reread all that stuff.
Okay.
Which is a long way to say that one of my big tips is you gotta, especially if you're pausing a game, you gotta leave future you, something to go on.
Yeah.
Like you gotta think of this as past you, current you, and future you. So you gotta like, in the moment as you're packing up the game to pause it, you gotta be like, hey, future Phil, you're gonna possibly run this game again. I need to make sure that you have a fighting chance.
Yeah.
Right? So what do I need to do to make sure that will happen? And I think that's going to overlap with part of your answer, so I'm not going to elaborate.
Okay.
Go ahead and talk about yours.
Okay. I have notes, lots and lots of notes, and a web page or a Google Drive doc. Back when I ran Pathfinder, I had an online Yahoo group for my players.
I did that.
They could post images and story summaries. They could answer each other's questions. They could have conversations out of character. I gave XP bonuses for people who actually participated and kept up with each other's notes. I had an NPC that the party had adopted, and every week I would give her like summary of what was going on in the game, including like clues the party completely missed, or they left town before talking to the baker, who was somebody they really needed to talk to. Well, she talked to them while they were off doing something else, and just kept the thing going and let other people give their observations. It was fun to see. It wasn't just a thing for notes. It also helped because the players kept involved between game sessions, because they would often give each other's observations on what they saw. And so that helped to keep the game moving even when we paused. I also stole an idea from Chris. Today I use Google Docs, and I have 2 things that are on for my Savage Eberron game. I have a Dramatis Personae thing listing every single NPC they encounter.
Yeah, that's good.
If they meet the bartender's daughter and she's there for 2 seconds, at least list her name and put it on there. But I also do a week-by-week summary of what happened, and it's editable by the players, and so they can go in and do things. And certain players of mine, Chris, have gone in and given some kind of fun little changes to some of the comments that I've made, so it's been kind of neat. But it's nice because that way, when we have a gap in play, everybody can just go online, do a quick read-through of where they are. I print out a copy and bring it to the table each week, so if people want to look at it and just kind of remember what happened, it helps. And in the past, when I've been trying to bring back a game that's been paused for a long time, I've created ad flyers for returning game, and I've posted them online for the players. Pictures, quotes, promotional flyers, funny little things. Try to ramp up excitement before they get there. It's the return of the renegades. Will they get a chance to escape from the planet before the Sith Lord comes, or something along that line, like the taglines from the beginning of the Clone Wars. but just something ahead of time to remind them what's going on and give them some sort of big promotion to do things. There's a thing you can find online that for Savage or for Second Darkness for Pathfinder, some guy took the song Super Eviction by Garbage and did a music video just using all the still images from the entire adventure path because the plot matches the song. And every time I run Second Darkness, by like the third or fourth episode, I show them that just because by that time they've started to figure out what's going on. But it really, that whole multimedia thing gets people ramped up. And if there's a pause in the game, I ran this online for a while, I'd send this to everybody. Watch this, we're gonna start the game up next week. And they'd get back into it because they're like, oh yeah, that's what's going on. I remember that character or whatever. Just anything you can do to kind of promote it. Sell your game to the players. Take notes and sell your game. Bob?
Yeah, I agree with most of what you guys have already said. There's a bit that you say in the next question that I'll just mention real quick, and you can go into more detail if you feel like it as part of the next question. But there's always whatever the source material is for the game.
Yeah.
This fits for stalled or paused games. If you're going to try and ramp back up into the thing, and there's it's based on a TV show.
Right.
Watch a little bit of the TV show.
Oh, yeah.
Play the theme song, whatever.
Get you back in the
that
genre.
Headspace started with the players, and that usually will kick off memories of different things and then get everything flowing again.
So I know Ange was like, just in the chat room, there's some talk about, there's some talk about your players being forgiving about what they'll remember, what you'll remember, and about how much more your players your players will remember. Here's the thing with me. My brain does not retain anything that it doesn't think it needs for something. So when a game stalls or a game pauses, like I offload huge chunks of information like easily. Like I shed knowledge, like I shed past knowledge like nobody's business.
Like Johnny Mnemonic getting a new info.
I'll be honest.
Dump a chunk of long-term
I'll be
memory.
honest. I think it has something to do with the fact that there's some things about my childhood where I had kind of a couple of traumatic experiences in my childhood, and I don't remember a few years of my childhood. But I tend not to remember lots of things in the past. Like I don't remember a lot of high school stuff. I don't remember a lot of stuff when I first moved here. But one of the things that often goes is somebody will be like, oh, do you remember my character in this campaign? And I'm like, no. Like, but you ran it for like a half a year. Nah, not so much. Like, I remembered it at the time, right? But so for me, I'm always terrified that I will not remember stuff. So I err on the, what do I need to leave for me?
Yeah.
Which is usually more than enough to jumpstart. Like Bob has a really good memory. So like you get it started and Bob starts to remember all sorts of stuff about a game or something where I'm like, oh, I ran that game? Yeah.
We played that together?
Well, I mean, that's easy because if we played it, I probably played it with you. But I like really don't. I don't retain that stuff well at all.
Well, there are two other things that come out of things like notes. I see Chris mentioned something about surprising to see what the players remember about the game that you forget. Something else that happens, and it's important to get, is what their opinion is of what's going on. Because every once in a while, you play in a game, this is what's happening. I'm playing a monthly Rippers game, and unfortunately, the players in the game have a totally different opinion of what's going on than the GM had for a while. It's not the GM's fault. It's a badly written plot point adventure.
Yes, we've talked about it.
It's a really badly written plot. But by the time we got to the 6th or 7th adventure, the players were all completely convinced that the group we were working for were the bad guys because we had never seen any evidence that they knew what they were doing. They were kind of setting us up to fail. And it was just the way the adventures were written. But by that time, we no longer, we are actively plotting to pretty much murder everybody in our organization because they have been untrustworthy to a person for most of the campaign. And it's just because that's how they're written in the adventure. That's a different story entirely. But if as a GM you see that, if the players start commenting about how, we think this is going on, that's going on, sometimes it's nice to play on that. Oh, they think this guy's the bad guy. Let's play on that for a while.
Yeah.
I ran a V&V campaign where I had a mystery going on, and I went to the bathroom and came back, and the players had drawn on the game map, the dry erase, a flow chart showing how like the last 7 adventures all pointed to one villain. They were nowhere even close.
But at that point, you just got to be like, okay.
No, because that villain was a major villain. I had to move things around, but it told me I wasn't giving the right information.
Yeah, I mean that's always that's actually a good way to take temperature, right?
Yeah.
Like is to like, what do you guys think is going on?
And I got one more. When I ran V&V for the first time in college, I was playing with 4 people I'd never gamed with before. 3 had never played a role-playing game before, and we started playing this superhero game. And they were going all over the place. They would like go to the prison and they would be asking me the names of everybody in the jail cells. And I'm just tossing names off the top of my head. Cutter, Razors, The Blade, Combustion, whatever. And I'm not remembering any of this. You know, what other super teams this guy run with? Flash forward a month later and I'm sitting there getting ready to do some stuff. And 2 of my players hand me like 30 pages of handwritten notes because I had 2 players who wrote everything down for the game. And that meant I didn't have to anymore.
Yep.
And what happened is at the end of every game, they would just hand me their notes. And you reward the players with that kind of stuff. You know, an extra Benny or, hey, everybody gets an extra 100 experience points or whatever because you guys are helping me run the game and it keeps everybody involved. So if you've got a player who takes meticulous notes, tag them and use them. Use your players. They're a resource.
Yep.
All right. That's it for me.
Yeah,
Pardon me.
I will say, right, so I do think that your best tips for a stall... Oh, I'll give my one last tip for reviving a stalled game. If your game has gone on, if the gap in time from the time it's stalled to the time you're restarting it has become significantly long, like month, 2 months, and the chance that people are going to remember stuff is pretty slim, don't pick up from where you left off. Like just advance time.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you can do something like, and I'm going to say it specifically because we've used this term before in another way, but you can do something like a Vincent Baker love letter where like, hey, here's a thing, like here's some things that you were doing since time passed, and make this roll real quick and we'll find out, like, you know, if you have any problems or stuff coming up before we start playing. Like, it is perfectly fine. Like, we're right now in the middle of a DCC dungeon, right? We lost 2 weeks because my back went out, and we're gonna jump back in and play, and we're just gonna play right where we left off. But if we lost like this coming session, like I might just be like, like let's just pick a new dungeon. And let's not even try to remember what happened. Let's just be like, well, that was a hell of an adventure. Everybody level up, whatever.
Yeah.
And let's just start the next adventure.
Remember that time when I was nothing but a pair of eyes on the wall?
That's too good to pass up, though. I want to see what
Oh,
happens
I know.
there.
That's you really want to see that finish out. But yes, so I think though that's my last piece of advice is that sometimes it's perfectly fine to just not try to maintain continuity of story and just get the characters back to playing, because what's really important is that you just start playing again.
Yep.
So if that works, just jump ahead.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, everybody on camera and probably on mic because Sai's not very quiet, is Sai the cat purring and possibly sneezing or sniffling because Sai's got a little bit of a nasal thing.
He always has. For those of you who are on the Slack server, this is the guy you hear all the time when the purring starts on Minecraft. Yes.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm going to put him down again. He just wanted to climb up. He wants to be hugged every once in a while.
Okay. Our last question for the round table. When it comes to reviving paused games, it's easier if you have prepped it well for being paused, right? We talked a little bit about this at the beginning, but we can talk. I want to expand on it now. What are your tips as a GM, and specifically, what are your tips as a player when you know that you're going to put a game into pause so that you have a reasonable chance of recovering it? Like, this is like, you're about to put it down into the carbonite. Like, what are you going to do to make sure that it survives?
Well, I'd say obviously start by taking copious notes. Take notes, put things down, but talk about it. Today we have the internet and it's wonderful. We can get online, you can chat, you can, do blogs about it. You can do fan fiction about what's going on. You can ask the GM what's going on and give people gaps. When I was in college My players all lived on my floor, and there'd be times we'd be sitting in the lunchroom just talking about the characters, talking about what's coming up next. I told them we're going to go back to doing an adventure with this party or that party, and for a week ahead of time, they'd be sitting around just getting excited, talking about what's going on and what plot points they wanted to follow and what storylines they wanted to work with and so on. So anything you can do to get your players excited about it, as a player, anything you can do to remember what was it that I wanted to do, and it's also a good time to tell the GM, hey, this is the story arc I want to go on, and while we're doing a pause, when we come back, I'd like to pursue, I want to have a romance with the prince, or I want to find my brother or sister, or I want to finally find the guy who shot my dog, or whatever, and that gives the GM something to work with, but it gets you more invested in it as well. Mm-hmm. And tell the other players about it so they can get involved, because with good players, they want to be part of your story, mm-hmm. and that makes it work better. Bob?
Yeah, so I agree with all of that, and help each other out. Mm-hmm. Like if you remember stuff and somebody else is having some struggles, you're like, no, wasn't that, this guy with the thing, and help to, to get everybody else back in the groove, because you might remember stuff more than the next person.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
I know. So we talked a bit about good notes, right? So I used to write code a lot, and I know Bob, you did too back in the day. So documentation of code is one of those things that they teach you in school, that you should do a good job documenting it, because someday you might have to read somebody else's code in the future and fix something. But I almost always had to fix my own shit, just because I had been in the position for a while back in one career ago. So this is where my future fill, past fill thing came from, because my documentation would be specifically to help future fill figure stuff out, and literally would leave it to myself as conversation to myself. Like I remember year after year I had this one program, and I could never remember why I set the variable the way I did. So one year I just wrote right next to it, you set the variable this way because, and sure as shit, the next year I open up the program and I'm like, why the hell did I set this and I see the note to myself and I'm like, right, good job, past Phil, reminding me of current, reminding future Phil what this deal was. So I do that to my notes if I'm pausing a game. As I go through my notes and I'm like, hey, future Phil, this villain you want to put in the next campaign. Hey, future Phil, this thread never got picked back up and closed. Maybe it's important, maybe it won't be, but I'm trying, at the time I'm pausing the game, I'm trying to think of what it's going to be like sometime in the future when I'm trying to revive the game, and what would be helpful. So that is definitely the first part. I do think that having part of your first session back being the round table discussion of so previously in Masks, and I could start telling stuff and then letting people fill in pieces or asking questions what was your grandmother's butler's name? Right?
Yeah.
Because that character was part of the thing, right? Or who was your grandmother dating? What was her name?
Oh, man.
Yes. Don't worry, I have those written down.
Yeah, I have written down too.
But I can see that scene clear as day, right? So those things I think help a lot. I think the other thing is, there comes a question, this will turn into a slightly bigger discussion. Why are you bringing back a paused game? Not that I'm saying you shouldn't, but sometimes we are enamored with a game more because of nostalgia than if the game was really good.
Gangbusters.
Yes, Gangbusters being one of them.
Armada and the Sega Dreamcast.
Yes.
That game held such a place for us. Oh. And then 10 years later, we're like, oh, I dug out my Dreamcast. Let's play Armada. And we're like,
why did we play
sucks.
this? Yeah, why did we play this game? Yeah, we did not have the second time we played that game was not the same experience as the
that
first.
Happened to us with one of the RPGs we tried to revive again, and I don't remember which one it was.
Yeah, and I would challenge that if you're reviving a game, it's worth asking before you start the work to revive it. why are we back here?
Yep.
And hopefully the answer is that you're genuinely interested in these characters, the situation, the what would come next kind of thing. More importantly, I would challenge it even harder if you didn't pause the game, but you ended it, right? Because when you end a game, you go through a certain amount of stuff to close off the storyline. Like, so for instance, I would not have a problem reviving my Masks game because that one was definitely the end of a story arc, and it felt like the end of a major arc in a comic book with the feeling like, oh no, there's more shit coming.
Yeah.
But Chris ended the Airy Peaks. Like, I would not go back, as much as I love my character, I would not go back and try and be like, we should play those characters again.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference between I paused a game with an intention of coming back to it versus we stopped playing this game and I want to play it again because that latter one is almost always nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost always, I want to play this game again because my memory of it is great. And maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. But I would definitely question why you're bringing a game back.
And then use the answers to that question as your springboard into your new session 0 to revive the impetus to get the thing going again.
Yeah, I mean, because for instance, are you going to kind of pick up where you left off? Because I think sometimes that's tricky. Or are you like, we just want to tell more stories with our superheroes? Like, cool, I'm gonna go find a new villain to be the focus of this next arc of the series, and I'm not even gonna worry about Dr. See how much I can forget.
Infinity.
Thank you, Dr. Infinity. So yeah, I do think that there is a I do think that you do need to sift through nostalgia versus like, we want to play this for a real solid reason. Because I think that nostalgia will fail you more times than not. I think most of my not going back to play games is, I had a really good time playing this game, period. Maybe it'll be good again.
Yeah.
But like, my love for Underground is vastly complicated by the fact that I know that there's more nostalgia behind it than I think that game is actually a great game. Like, I love the premise of the game. I love the layout, the artwork of that game. I love the political commentary to it. But that game is a like early 90s, late 80s tech game. And even when I tried to play it again once, we just converted it to Fate. So...
And you remember when we tried to go back to Amber after that epic campaign that we had?
Also a terrible idea.
That thing burned.
It was bad. Again, that that wasn't even just reviving a campaign. That's literally like we tried to go back to that system. I don't actually believe that there'll be tons of people. If I say this out loud, I'm going to get yelled at by people on the internet. But my belief is you should only play Amber once and never play it again. Because once you've played with players who've played it once, the second time they play it, all they want to do is F around with the powers in the game. And the first time they play it, they're just in wonder of like being godlike and having these cool powers. And the second time they're like, you know what? I'm going to build myself a ghost wheel.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm going to build 2 ghost
Not
wheels.
to mention, playing Amber Diceless, I think, helps you build a set of skills that's super useful down the road.
In other games.
In other games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you learn a lot from
Like
it.
all I ever played was like D&D. You know, I played D&D, Basic Advanced. We started to play Castle Falkenstein. We played Whispering Vault.
Whispering Vault's a game that I think is more nostalgic than I think is.
And then we're like, let's play Amber. And that Amber game, like, just totally is a completely different animal for your brain. It's just like...
Yeah, it's a fantastic game, and every good experience I've ever had with it with people has been their first time playing it, and every experience where I've been annoyed with people playing it has been their second time playing it, where I'm just like, quit fucking around with the universe.
All the mystery is gone. All the shine is off. It's
Yeah.
like you know exactly what's going on. You're like, all right, somebody's out there making plans and
telling you,
plotting against me.
once
I'm gonna
you've
fuck with them.
Once you've read the second set of books, it's just a mess because the second set of books, no. I love the second set of books. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. I love both series of Zelazny's, but players who have read the second set of books come at Amber
Oh, yeah.
with a completely different approach that loses a lot of the wonder of it.
Nah.
No, Mo, you do not want to play it a second time ever. Awful. Don't. You'll be making your own ghost wheel or trying to cook your own powers.
Now, if you want to pick up a bunch of noobs that have never played before and sit down and play with a bunch of noobs and watch them tear each other apart after
Yes.
they realize what happened, like, that'll be fun.
Never actually played Amber Diceless. I've only read like the 5th and 6th book. So
Well, that's weird. If you read the
that's a
fifth
weird-
and sixth
I got him his books on tape when I was driving a lot. So
Oh no, there's. You should go back and get the other ones. That series is great.
it sounded amazing.
Except for
Yeah.
the shadow walking parts. Like Zelazny could have just.
Yeah.
The first couple times you did it was great.
Yeah,
Did
that
not
first
need
book,
to keep doing it.
The shadow walking is a little painful, but
My problem was that when I picked up the Amber books, I thought those were the books that Castle Amber was based
Oh
on.
yeah, no,
oh yeah, totally
not,
different.
Yeah, not the same thing.
not the same as.
But Clark Ashton Smith stuff was good too. So good stuff either way.
Yeah.
So
That was my. So I'm really going back to that to crystallize it. Right. My last thing was about questioning why you're bringing games back. Right.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you shouldn't. I'm just saying that it's been my experience that nostalgia never seems to pan out compared to trying to continue a genuinely good story experience.
Yep.
So, I guess I would say it this way: if you challenge everybody about why you want to play it and they can't remember their characters, they're probably just nostalgic for it.
Yeah.
Oops, Si's all fired up.
Oh yeah.
He's getting all spastic cat mode. Anyway,
All right. Well, that's our take on reviving stalled and paused games.
Yep.
Hopefully your games are going to run smoothly, but if they don't, we hope that some of this discussion will help you get them back on track again. But let's check in one last time with our chat room for life, and then we'll head over to the conversation corner. So in the chat room, I saw that Senda was rattling off a whole bunch of bounty hunter names. I don't remember. Are those the ones from campaign, or are those ones she made up herself?
I'm questioning some of these. Sea bass, for instance, that
Yeah.
might not be a good one.
Tissues.
I can read.
Really?
I can read them all off real quick if you want.
I mean, if you
Mad Dog, Whiplash, Cream Puff, Regicide and Gravedigger,
Those are good.
Landmine, Sea Bass, Backdraft and Hull Hogan, Big Dog, Bigfoot, Mankind, Stardust, Bounty Hunter, a terrible name for the Bounty Hunter, and Cowboy. Shockwave, Shredder, Super Shredder, Shredded Lettuce, and Rocksteady.
I've got some concerns about
I've
some.
got some questions. Yeah.
Tissues, Traitor, Backstab, and Untrustworthy Doug.
I like backstab.
I mean, untrustworthy Doug reminds me of new Doug, so that's always
Hey,
good.
new Doug.
Mock Just Mock.
Mock,
man.
just mock the cheesemonger. I love mock.
Oh, those were the ones from campaign. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I mean, I like backstab, although that's going to be a tough one for your. That's going to be a tough one for your session 0 when you're like, why are you guys all together?
Yeah.
Like, why are you guys friends with backstab?
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna backstab you.
It's like, no, it's just a nickname.
You know the scorpion and the
Yeah,
and
the
the
scorpion
turtle?
and the frog.
The frog, yeah.
Yeah.
Why did you sting me?
So earlier,
backstab.
Mo had said that he's had very little luck with reviving a campaign after it's been paused. It's like they decide to take a break, they play something else, they enjoy that so much that they never go back.
Yep.
Then they take another break and they try something else, and then they get hooked on that,
Yep.
and they end up never going back to
To,
the stuff.
to
they-
be honest, there's no requirement when you pause a game that you need to go back to it.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
just that it's you've left yourself the option to go back to it.
Yeah.
But never, like, there's not a requirement like, well, if you paused it, you have to play it again. Like,
Yeah.
just go play other shit.
And Angie even said it, you really have to have some kind of emotional connection from the GM and the players
Yeah.
that will be some kind of link to want to go back to it, like for real, want
Right.
to go back to it.
And that's how we got that's how we went from Tales from the Loop to Things from the Flood.
Yes.
Because we loved those kids.
Yeah.
And then, to be honest, when we met them in Things from the Flood, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
these kids are fucked up from what happened to them.
Those kids have had some trauma.
They're not like those. The book doesn't go through that, but like through our play, like I think it came out at one point. Tony looked at like everybody at the table, and he's like, "Let's just admit it. We all sleep with our light on."
Yeah.
Right, and was like, "Oh man, these kids are a mess from what happened to them."
Yep.
Well, you know, I think the other thing about pausing games and not coming back, this generation is a little better because we're so used to things like Firefly, where, you know, it just stops.
Just
There's
learning
a
to be sad
Just
about.
stopped.
It ain't coming back. Let's just move on to something else, you know?
Oh wow, there's a great new show on. It's called Space Above and Beyond. Oh, it's over.
Well, first of all, let's just admit, if a sci-fi property gets picked up by Fox, you should not invest
Do not
heavily
get
in it.
attached to it.
This
'cause
is true.
It's gonna go bye-bye.
Just don't get attached to it because Fox will F it up.
Well, yeah, but then again, these days Amazon might buy it and take it for 3 more seasons.
Well, that's
know.
what you hope for, right? That's
Yeah.
the thing you're hoping is that actually you're just hoping Fox doesn't get it ever.
Yeah.
That it just goes to Amazon or Netflix and you'll get to enjoy it.
And for Space Above Beyond, for the love of freaking God, it's more than 4 episodes. Show the goddamn aliens. That's why I stopped watching.
Saving money.
Show
It's
the
funny because
goddamn
I bring that
aliens.
up multiple. Every time there's a discussion similar to this, I always bring up Space Above and Beyond.
It's a legit.
I have never watched one episode of it.
Oh, okay.
I've never seen it.
You're not missing much. It's,
Oh, boy.
It's very dry, and it's got a lot of very unlikable characters.
Send your
I
tweets
heard
to
good things
GM
about it from people.
Gerrymander on Twitter.
I heard from people that it was good. So, who knows?
I watched it for
Hey,
4
Abby.
episodes, waiting for the
Abby.
aliens to show up, and they never show up.
Get the alien monkey.
Yeah.
It's like here's the thing. I know I watched it. I don't remember it. I think I liked
It
it.
was not very memorable.
I remember that I was upset, but not as upset as when Firefly got canceled.
And all joking aside, if you love Space Above and Beyond, that's also cool.
Yeah.
I was looking for something very specific. and it
Jerry
didn't
would
bring it.
never yuck someone's yum.
No,
No, it did not give me what I was looking for out of a sci-fi show.
There you go.
no, he would not yuck somebody's yum. But Jerry does have very specific requirements. So if it doesn't meet the requirements, it's not a.
There you go.
Likable characters, show me the goddamn aliens.
There you go.
Likable characters is definitely a thing. If I don't like your characters, what show was I watching where that happened?
X-Files?
No, it was something recent where I was like, I don't think I like anyone here. I forget. I definitely was not like. I got to the end of whatever I was watching, and I was like, oh, I know what it was. It was Iron Fist.
Oh, yeah.
I got to the end of Iron Fist, and I'm like, I really don't know who I'm rooting for in this final fight. Maybe Danny should get his ass kicked. Like, yeah,
Iron Fist season 2 was way better.
yeah. Well, because it didn't have Danny Rand in it. Like,
It had lots of Danny Rand.
yeah. No, Narcos I loved, man.
Yeah.
Narcos is so here the thing with Narcos is, because Avi just brought up Narcos. The thing with Narcos is you can't be attached to these characters because they're narcotics traffickers and there's a shelf life on every one of them.
Yeah.
You may not know when it is, but it's coming.
Every
Like-
one of them's got an expiration date stamped on them.
Right, they're all going to go away. Yeah, that is definitely like you don't retire from being a giant drug kingpin. Like you go to jail or you go out in a blaze of glory. A or B, you pick.
We've talked about likable characters before, and that's something that I thought. I'm a big fan of horror movies, and something that gets me. If I like the characters, I will follow them through a mediocre story. But if I don't like the characters, I'm just like, you know what? I kind of hope the monster kills all of them so somebody interesting comes along. And that'll ruin a story for me real quick.
Yes.
Is if I'm like, I have no investiture, and I've had the same problem with role-playing games. I've played some D&D games where just because of the way the game is designed, that I'm 5 sessions in and I'm like, I have absolutely no emotional investment in this character whatsoever. And the Horde of the Dragon Queen adventure, from week to week, I couldn't care less if my character lived or died.
Yeah.
Because nothing we did was driving towards that character's goals.
I will definitely say that one of the things I do when I play is I work very hard to come up with a reason for me to love the character for that reason. Because if I don't start having an emotional attachment to my character, my engagement in the game wanes quickly.
Yeah.
now, like, and I also consider that I consider a large chunk of that to be on me, especially when the game's getting started, because I don't expect the GM. I don't expect the GM in the first couple sessions to be advancing my shit forward because they're trying to get everything else going.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for the motivation that's like self-contained.
Yeah.
I got a revenge plot. I gotta get treasure. Whatever it is, I gotta like make my own carrot.
Yeah. What is it on this character sheet that intrigues me, or something in his the bit of backstory that I created, or the connection to another player?
Yes.
What one of those pieces, or more than one, actually like stands out and goes, investigate me?
Yes. And now,
And if you don't have that,
right. Right. So
it makes it more difficult.
So after the game goes on for a little bit, then I will tell the GM, oh, by the way, I now have a goal. Right? Like this happened with Corin, right? So for like the longest time, Corin was self-motivated, right? Get treasure, spend treasure, right? And then when the Queen of Hoarfrost and Woe came about and they decided not to kill Tony, I told Chris, I said, oh, I have a goal now, which is to get back to her.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't know how that works. I don't know what that means, but you take that. Like, you take that and put it wherever you need to.
Yep.
Because that's what I'm working for now. And we did.
Yeah.
Like, so what is Ange is saying? I'd say it's that's a fault of the GM for not understanding how to emotionally. Yes. So the GM absolutely, especially in early sessions, has a responsibility for getting players emotionally invested in the game and keep them excited about the game.
Yep.
I will say though, I think the GM's got a lot to do, so I try not to pester my GM, and I don't do it with my I don't do it for the games I run either. I don't start getting B plots going until a few sessions in.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I'm trying to get my mechanical mastery. I'm trying to get the initial story off the ground.
But a GM's also got to take the hook. You know, you talked in Pandas about players take the hook that the GM baits for you. GMs have to play on the hooks.
You gotta put a hook out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the GMs have to take the hooks the players give them too. Because the player is too focused. If the GM's too focused on just the plot and the mechanics,
Right.
and doesn't grab occasionally on little things here and there, the characters will just, you know, I'm just kind of.
You got to keep your eyes and ears open, because a character will love letter you.
Yeah.
And you got to take that information. That's where we talked about leading questions.
Yes.
You ask leading questions. When the players give you answers, write those fucking things down.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that will tell you what they're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys come up with a party and I'm giving you like a completely unrelated first adventure, I'm not doing my job.
Yeah.
Right. I need to bring the game. So this is, to me, is part of where that CATS technique comes in.
Yep.
Because where CATS comes in is we talk about subject matter, content, and stuff like that. So like when I did Headspace, like I told them, I'm like, look, you were bad people who worked for corporations that's now going to get your revenge on these corporations. And I might have said that like 4 times. So like where we're meeting in the middle is, you make up guys that were bad people that want revenge, and I'm going to go put a bunch of corporations in front of you, and we're going to figure out which ones you want to knock down.
Yep.
Right? I'm like, so I think that's also part of it. Like part of it is on the GM to be like, this is the game we're playing, and I need you to be ready to go into this space. And then players have to be like, cool, I know you're super busy, GM. I'm going to work on my motivation for being in that space. And if we do that together, like we got a good chance that we're gonna make some magic happen here. I want to jump, I want to jump over to Conversation Corner because I've got about 7 minutes before I have to bolt out of here.
Yep.
And thanks, Bob.
Sounds good.
So we'll do that, and then we'll usher ourselves into the end of the show, and then I'll.
Sounds good.
Yes, cool. So yeah, Conversation Corner. I finished Narcos season 2.
Okay.
Super good. Not going to give anything away. But like I said, drug dealers got the only 2 options left in the
Are
game.
there only 2 seasons of it, or is it?
No, so there's 3 seasons of Narcos, which is the Colombian ones.
Yep.
And then there's 2 seasons of Narcos Mexico.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
And Mo said you can root for the DEA guys. but I also wouldn't hold on too tightly to the DEA guys.
No.
Yeah, some of those guys have
Some
shelf
of those
life.
guys also have a shelf life.
I've seen episode season 1.5, so yeah.
Yeah. What else did I do? I did a bunch of prep for Headspace. I went to. I've been playing some Minecraft. I've been playing that FTB pack. Which, by the way, if you want to get into some other packs, FTB would probably be a good one for you.
I'm
With
thinking
the
about
server
doing
being
that.
kind of like spotty right now.
I don't think the server's been on for like a week
Yeah,
now.
so Schmidt's been having. It's become increasingly unstable because I think we've overbuilt it.
Yeah, that's okay.
But yeah, the other thing we went Sunday night. We went and had this like amazing dinner at this restaurant that I would not have suspected was in
Yep.
one in my neighborhood and two that good. But I had chicken katsu curry, a Japanese dish, and I am in love with it. I think we're going there again on Sunday, and I'm trying to talk myself into trying something else on the menu, but I'm pretty sure when I get there, I'll just fall right back into getting the chicken katsu curry. Really good stuff. Really liked it. I'm trying to think if anything else happened. I don't think so. I think that was pretty much it for me for the week. I don't know, it was an all right week. Work's a monster, but
Yeah.
like, that's not going away. Oh, and a pandemic. Like, that's a thing.
Yeah, a global pandemic is.
Well, that thing's starting to actually have impacts at my office and things like that. As like we're talking about preparations and things like, what happens if the campus closes and we have to go to remote work and like all of that stuff. And yeah, it's a thing.
Yep.
Like, and here's the thing, right? I used to have my background is in molecular biology. I have read like a ton of books on like the hot zone, the coming plague, like all of those things. So like when this thing started, like I got like all up in reading about it because it's kind of like it was my old wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So like I'm not freaking out or anything, but I'm also not like it's a super cold. Like I'm in the middle on this thing.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm taking it seriously. I'm not freaking out about it. Anyway, that's me. By the way, I hope that everyone who's listening, since we have listeners worldwide, like if you are in a place that's in a full-blown epidemic at this point, stay safe.
Yeah.
Wash your hands, and I'll put it in gamer terms, right? My PSA that I put out on Twitter today. If you wash your hands for 4 rounds, you will get to roll for advantage on your con save.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
Wash.
There you go.
That's me. And I'm going to slowly start to get
Yeah,
packed up.
okay.
Somebody can pick up my
Yeah,
my closing.
my ex is down with something. My housemate, she said she had the Jaeger virus. She spelled it Jaeger though, and I said no, that's only for robots. That's because humans can't get that one.
That's why Gypsy Danger,
Yeah.
Gypsy Danger shut down once.
Gypsy Danger's analog. Everything in that fucking thing was digital.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, yeah.
I don't know which
That was
part
not
of it.
analog. Okay. Nuclear maybe. Yeah, I'll give you that. But
It's not. That's not.
Do
what
not
new
bring
word,
real
analog.
science into that awesome movie.
that
okay?
movie, just take it and watch and enjoy because
It is the most awesome, stupid movie or the most stupid, awesome movie, but just enjoy it.
everybody's like, "Oh man, the plot." And I'm like, no. I said they promised me big giant robots fighting big giant monsters, and I went, "That's what I want," and that's what I got.
When Gypsy Danger drags the tanker down
Down
the
the
street,
street
like a
and
bat,
uses it as a bat.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm like, yes.
you're in for quality.
That's good
in
stuff
for a
right
quality evening of entertainment.
Yes, you are.
I am after a brief lull where the outstanding Kickstarters were slowly coming off my list. I am now back up.
Pulled you
I'm
back in.
with no. I just have to say that I am balls deep on that Marvel United game.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Martin Ralia.
Thank you, Martin Ralia. I looked at that and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna back it for the the $90 level where you get all of this, and then it's like, oh, we got this expansion and this expansion, and I'm like, well, maybe I don't need all the expansions. And then they came out with the Spider-Man expansion, and I gotta have the Spider-Man expansion. And then I'm like, well, fuck. I'm like, I'm just gonna get all of them. And then thankfully, after the last one that they added, they created a new tier
Yeah.
that gives you all of the expansions
Yeah.
and knocks some money off of the price.
Oh, that's
So I'm like,
nice.
okay, so now I'm good. And they keep adding more characters. They just added the Punisher recently. They just hit the Punisher level. Dormammu is like the next one up.
Yeah, I want to see more villains. I got plenty of heroes now. Let's see.
I'm disappointed. Not as disappointed as Victor. I'm disappointed that there's no X-Men characters or Fantastic Four characters
Yep.
in the entire game.
Yep.
But this is a game that they can easily, 2 years down the road, after Marvel's got all this stuff sorted out movie-wise, where they can go, oh yeah, go ahead and make an expansion, a Fantastic Four pack with Annihilus or Doom or whatever. And here, go and do some X-Men and blah, 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 and start. They can make new packs
Oh, yeah,
to
they
add on
can.
to that very easily.
Yeah,
And I will buy them probably. So.
That game has MCU potential in expansions.
Yeah.
So
But they did some really nice things with it. They had the Infinity Gauntlet expansion where they have a bunch of that stuff.
goodbye, everybody.
See you, Phil.
Phil's on the way out. Rest of her.
But they went through, and partway through the campaign of the Kickstarter, they had someone create an actual gauntlet.
Yes.
So they did
saw
a
that.
3D model of a gauntlet, and they said, this is going to be sitting on your table now, instead of just mentally thinking, well, as Thanos gains the gems during the course of play, just imagine that he's got them on the gauntlet. No, now they have a physical gauntlet that sits there, and when you get the gems for the gauntlet, you put them in spots on the gauntlet. And I'm like, that's an awesome idea. So it's going to be, I think that game's going to be a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that are interesting about it. They added a Sinister Six expansion,
I like
which
that.
changes the gameplay because you can play against all six at once. And there's different things, like all of these different expansions and characters that they're bringing in, they're tweaking gameplay with them. Like the Punisher isn't really a hero, but he's not a villain, and he doesn't take heroic actions, but he can go in and clean out mooks real quick.
Yep.
And take care of stuff like that. It's just interesting the way that they've created and developed that whole system, and I'm very intrigued about it and looking forward to getting it. But I did not expect to be, not gonna lie, with the other add-ons. There's like a playmat, and there's upgraded location cards that are like thicker, heavier card stock. I said the hell with it. I'm just gonna go in all for all of it. It's gonna be like $235, and then add shipping onto it after. So. That's the biggest Kickstarter I've ever backed as far as monetary value. So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting.
I'm just reading the chat room real quick before we jump into mine. That, Ann just saying that her company just canceled the company conference that was supposed to happen next week. And most of some Seattle employees are going to have to work from home. And Danielle brought up the problems of college cons and breakout cons. And we were talking. We both know a gamer friend of ours that had to cancel their trip to Breakout Con because their company told them that if you leave the country, plan on taking a 3-week unpaid vacation when you come back.
Yeah.
And so they canceled the con because they canceled going to the con. No,
Yeah.
Breakout Con is still on.
Yeah.
They can't go across the border because their company doesn't want them coming back with something.
Yep.
So that could be a problem.
It's going to be interesting.
It's going to be an issue. For me, I finished watching Hunters and kept catching up on Rebels. So a lot of streaming stuff going on now. And looking at when Bob got balls deep into the Marvel game, I decided to get balls deep into the Batman the Animated Series Kickstarter, which is a co-op game and has an AI that runs the bad guys and plays out, I think, the entire first season of Batman the Animated Series. And it's also a big box game. Luckily, I just sold a bunch of big box games, so I'm just going to basically clear off my shelves and then put stuff back on them again. But that's okay. But yeah, just looking forward to actually getting back into gaming. We did a very good game of D&D Eberron on Friday, where we ran through a creative heist that we had to pull off with limited prep time. So heists are always interesting when you don't have time to put everything together. This was a heist where we basically got the information and had less than 24 hours to pull it off, and so couldn't get all of our resources. So we had to work as tightly as possible with a new player. And on Sunday, I ran my Eberron game that we played, and the players, it was more of a puzzle game and a little bit of a dungeon crawl, and I'm not great at running dungeon crawls, but the players did a really good job of talking to things. They talked the big bad into joining them for a brief time until they could kill him off later on. And I like how the players adapt really quickly to new situations, and it's a lot of fun to watch. I don't mind when players completely subvert my plot. If they're having a good time and I'm having a good time and they're playing in character without doing that's what my character would do bullshit, which these guys don't.
Yeah.
I don't mind if the players decide to make somebody a good guy who is a bad guy or vice versa. As long as it makes sense within the plot, go with it. They've definitely changed where I have to go, but I have 2 weeks now to set up for the next one. So
Yeah.
Because I cleaned, one of the things I did cleaning my area down here is I found a lot of battle maps, so I'm going to be using more props in my games more.
That's always fun.
Because I have 2 file cabinets full of just maps. So with that, see what else is going on here. Not a lot in the social media. So why don't we go to, you've got the list of...
Yeah, we'll knock out the Patreon shoutouts and head to the after show.
Yep.
All right, so we're back to the Royal Court. Craig, the Lord of One Name. Eileen Barnes, the Duchess of Pandas and Talking Games. Merrick Blackman, the Royal D&D Reviewer. Richard Wyatt, Captain of the Royal Airship Fleet. Sorry. All of a sudden I got a tickle in my throat. GM Gerrymander, Lord of the After Show. Right? There you go. Michael Dinos, the Inquisitor of Mark, and his trusty steed Pretzel.
Pretzel's a good dog.
John Carney, the Court Necromancer. Andy Olson, the Duke of Dice. Eric Bonts, the Duke of Gators and the Lord of Beefness. Brian Kurtz, the Royal Doctor of Physic. Jesse Edmond, the Royal Doctor. John Selamay, the Guard at the End of the World. Andrew Dacey, the Warden of Whiskies. Jared Rasher, the Scribe of MMP. Jim Likes Games, the Royal Merchant. P.K. Sullivan, the Queen's Royal Rocketeer. Schmitty, the Keeper of the Labyrinth. Kevin Lovecraft, the Royal Beard. Rob Aberzato, the Gauntlet of the Queen. Todd Crapper, the Prophet of Probability. And Tiberius Starcrash Smith, the Baron of Britannia.
Thank you.
That is the patron list. Thank you to everyone for listening to us and watching us tonight. If you're free on Tuesday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. the Queen's time, you're welcome. Come join us live on Twitch, where you can chat with other listeners in the chat room for life and ask us questions.
If you cannot make it to the live show, check out our podcast each week, wherever you get your podcasts. Take a listen to some of our other shows on the Misdirected Mark Network, such as Down with D&D, Bonestone and Obsidian, Pandas Talking Games, The Gnome Cast, Zhang Hustle, She's a Super Geek, The FM Gamers, and Bonus Experience. You can and should also check out our sibling podcasts, Tabletop Bellhop, The Knights of the Night, and the always amazing Gaming in BS. Then you can leave us some feedback. You can reach us directly at mmp@misdirectedmark.com, our Facebook group, and Twitter @misdirectedmark. He is Robert M. Everson, Phil is DNA Phil, and I'm GM Gerrymander.
If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the
Misdirected Mark, Word Scramble.
Misdirected Mark, Word Scramble. I was slow on the button. If you like what we do here and on the other shows in the Misdirected Mark Network, you can support our Patreon campaigns. MMP Down with D&D and Pandas Talking Games are at patreon.com/MMP. She's a Super Geek is at patreon.com/sassgeek. Zhang Hustle is at patreon.com/Zhang Hustle. And Bonus Experience is at patreon.com/Bonus Experience. Patrons of MMP, Down with D&D, and Pandas Talking Games get access to the after show, pre-production show notes, musical parodies, Pandas Talking Games bonus outtakes, and other special releases.
This has been a Misdirected Mark production, the media arm of Encoded Designs. Mic drop.
We out.